Well, it is now, good afternoon, Knicks Nation. It's after 12 o'clock on Wednesday, the 17th of March, 2021. And I want to wish you all health and happiness. And hope that if you are sick, you're doing better and getting well, and that you and your loved ones are provided for. Blessings on those that are taking care of sick people in the healthcare field, that are trying to make their lives comfortable, trying to save their lives, and oftentimes risking their own to do that. Blessings also on those that pick up garbage, filthy things with disease to make our places clean. And on those that do deliveries, unnamed persons that get paid very little and make our lives more convenient. Double blessings on those that are trying to rescue little boys, little girls, teenagers, sometimes even men and women, from sex trade and sex slave operations that are multi-billion-dollar industries in this world in which we live, and curses on those that support such filthy industries. Finally, double blessings on those that are working for the good of the homeless, men, women, boys, and girls that are on the streets of America, 500,000 plus, including veterans, as well as the millions worldwide that live outside and don't want to. Double blessings on those that live outside and those that are helping them. And may homelessness very soon become a thing that's forever in the past. So there was a basketball game last night. Our New York Knicks fought very hard against the number one team in the Eastern Conference, the Philadelphia 76ers, who were without their number one player in Joel Embiid. Of course, that doesn't matter because we also were without some key pieces as well. Which, before I get into the game, I'd like to give a shout out to Tom Thibodeau. You're talking about a situation where he inherits a team that was expected to be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. In fact, some have said they're one of the worst teams in the NBA beginning of the season. And through sheer hard work, determination, and development, him and his assistant coaching staff, including Mike Woodson, Kenny Payne, Johnny Bryant, have turned that same team with some journeyman players on one-year contracts into one of the top defensive teams in the NBA. In a league where you need strong point guard play to be able to compete with the big boys, he did not have strong point guards. And the ones he did get are hurt. And by magnificent masterful coaching, he has been in games and he's been winning games with what he has. This is one of the reasons I was excited, and not only about them hiring Tom Thibodeau, but about that article we talked about from the New York Post about a week ago, where he was pushing for certain things to happen and the management was pushing back and saying to him, no, no, we're going to develop. And why they could do that to Tom Thibodeau is because Tom Thibodeau's a gym rat. He's a gym rat. So he's going to coach up whoever you put in front of him. Okay? He's going to coach him up. He's going to try to win every minute of every game. And he demands certain things. And this is what we are seeing now. The Knicks was just finishing the fourth game of a road trip since the All-Star break, and they went 1-3. We were hoping they would go 2-2, but they went 1-3. And they played three, really, of the top teams in the East. They played Philadelphia, they played Milwaukee, and they played Brooklyn. Pretty much the top three in the East. Now, we lost by Milwaukee pretty big, but we also beat them pretty big earlier in the season. But the other two games with Philly and Brooklyn went down to the wire. Both of them. Now, of course, Brooklyn is missing Kevin Durant and Philly is missing, as I mentioned, Joel Embiid. But listen, you play the games, right? You play the games with whatever you have. That's why I'm not making an excuse for Brooklyn or Philly, because Tom Thibodeau was working with much less than both of those teams. Much less. And look what he's doing. So the game last night was tight, but I want to say in the next 6 games, 5 of them are at home, and we will be playing Milwaukee again and Philly again. And then add to that, we have another tough game. Who is it? They're playing Milwaukee. They're playing Philly. I know we play Washington twice, and I'm not, taking that for granted either. We play Washington twice. We can't take anybody for granted in this league, but we play Washington twice. But we got Philly, we got Milwaukee, and yes, the hated Miami Heat. Miami's always been a nemesis ever since Pat Riley just walked out, on when he walked out on James Dolan. Now, anyway, so we got a chance for revenge. I am very hopeful of these next several games. I'm not saying we're going to win them all, but I'm very hopeful because obviously from what the Knicks have showed last night, honestly, if you look at the game, in the fourth quarter, Randle, especially Julius, but I did see it with a number of other players. It was Julius, it was Burks, not RJ though, but Julius and Burks were definitely running out of gas. There's no question they were running out of gas. Quickly, had to get his ankle. Apparently, he sprained his ankle. He already had a groin issue. So, we were banged up, and then tired, coming back to back against the 2 top teams in the East. And we were in both games, right to the end. Last night, at the end of that game, less than a minute left, we had 2 good shots at the rim. 2 good shots. RJ got a shot that I think probably 7 out of 10 times RJ's going to hit. And so he missed that one. Quickly got a pretty good open look at from the 3-point line, which again, it was a straight on look, which most of the time he hits that also. I think 6 out of 10 he would hit that, maybe 7. So they both missed those. And that also, I believe, even though I didn't see as much fatigue in RJ, that boy is really impressing me, being so young and such a stud at this stage of his career. But you have to think that, fatigue had a little bit to do with both of that. But I'm very proud of our team. And I like what we're looking like going forward. So the Knicks at this point are 20-21. Isn't that interesting? 20-21, and they're 20-21. So maybe it was destined for them to get to this point. But I think it's pretty much a lock that they're going to, exceed 22.5 wins. Pretty much a lock. And I also, think it's also a lock that they will make the playoffs. Okay. Again, I'm still looking at them at the 6th seed at this point. I'm thinking the Knicks are going to be the 6th seed. And this next 6 games is going to tell us a lot about where they'll be. This next 6 games is going to tell us a lot about where the Knicks will be. The body slam that Randle took from Ben Simmons. Was it Ben Simmons or no? It was Dwight Howard. That was a foul, first off, and he landed hard on his right arm. So that's going to be sore today. But what impressed me about Randle, see, you get some big dudes like that are big muscular dudes that are soft. In fact, Howard himself, most of his career, if he got a little hurt, he wouldn't play. But Randle, what impressed me is, again, he jumped up, and I know he was hurting, but he still came hard. He wasn't lightening up. And so he's really coming into his own, as a star player. This is the year. And it's finally for the Knicks, as Knicks fans, the last time that we had a guy that was not a star before that came into his own while he was on the Knicks, would have been either Patrick Ewing or Bernard King, right? Both of those guys. Like we've had superstars before with Willis Reed and Clyde Frazier and Earl Monroe, even though Earl Monroe was pretty much after his prime when he came to the Knicks. But this is the first time we get a guy that we got cheap because that was his value. He was actually overvalued a little bit at $63 million when we got him. But now he's undervalued because he has improved so much. And so very happy. We definitely want to keep Julius Randle. He's going to be a cornerstone going forward, as he should be. Last night, the refereeing wasn't it wasn't as bad as it was obviously in Brooklyn. That was terrible. And the game was tightly contested. We had 13 turnovers. They had 12. We had 56 rebounds. They had 57. We shot 33% from three. They shot 34. It was a very enjoyable game to watch. It was definitely a defensive game. And that's what you expect. Neither team got over 100 points. It was a really tightly contested game. The Knicks only scored 14 in the fourth. And some people will say, well, they need shooting. I'm not going to disagree that they need shooting, but I'm thinking you got to consider fatigue in that as well. You got to consider fatigue in that situation. And again, I'm really giving props to our man Tiz because he's playing. He was pretty much forced to let Burks play the point, and Burks is not a point guard by any stretch of the imagination. So it was a valiant effort. And that's where we are right now. You have to understand this is the first year of our rebuild. Also remember, we're trying to build a long-term sustainable winner in New York. So this is just the first step in that direction, and we're doing very well in that. Like I said, we get to the playoffs. Nobody wants to face the Knicks in the 7-game series. I can tell you that right now. The Knicks are not no pushover. They're not going to be like a Detroit or Orlando that gets into the 8th seed and pretty much gets wiped out 4-1 by whoever they're playing. No, that's not going to be us. Nobody wants to face the Knicks in the 7-game series come playoff time. Good news also is that Mitchell Robinson looks like he's going to be back. Probably, I'm going to be conservative and say he's going to be back within the next 6 games. This next 6 games, 5 at home, 1 in a row against Milwaukee. He'll be back within that time. That's going to be a big plus for us. Also, hopefully Derrick Rose will be back within the next 6 games. We're doing pretty good. I like what we're looking like. I like the way we're developing. I love our defense. I'm just a guy that just really I grew up when the Knicks first won their first 2 championships. When I became a Knicks fan, I was like 8 or 9 years old. But what I learned from that was ball movement, the beauty of ball movement, seeing how the Knicks, Word Holtzman used to just hit the open man. That was the thing. I learned that from watching them. And then in the 90s Knicks, when you had Ewing and them, and then later on Marcus Camby and Latrell Sprewell and them, they played ferocious defense. And that's where I really appreciate defense. And the Knicks have not played this level of defense. Even under, they played good under Woodson. They played good defense under Woodson, but that was only for 1 season. And it was really, I don't know. Woodson got the most out of that team. And at that team, you had Tyson Chandler, Defensive Player of the Year. This looks more long-term and sustainable. That's what this looks like. This is not a 1-year wonder. It looks like something that's going to be part of the culture. And that's what we were talking about in the beginning of the season. A culture change, right? A culture change. And we're talking about Andre Drummond, for example. And I mentioned in my last video, I don't want him. Because this is supposed to be a culture change. I'm not saying Andre Drummond is not good. He's a good player. I'm not saying he wouldn't even help us. He probably would right now. But we got Mitchell Robinson. See, brethren, Knicks Nation, part of culture change is developing your players. Okay? Developing your guys. Okay? Again, look at Miami. Look at San Antonio, and look at Boston. Look at these teams and look at even Milwaukee and look at these teams and look at the guys that are their cornerstones that were developed in their system. Okay. Guys that were like, for example, in Milwaukee. So they traded for Jrue Holiday, right? And so he's a big piece for them. But they drafted Giannis, and Giannis, I'm going to tell you an honest truth. In Giannis' first 2 or 3 seasons even, nobody knew he was going to be this good. He had potential, but nobody knew that he was going to be this good. They developed him into what you see. Middleton they got when he was one step from like the G League, from Detroit. He wasn't no big time player. He developed, and it was young in his career, and he developed in their system. Okay. Now DiVincenzo, they got from Villanova at the end of the first round. And he's a key piece. That's what you want. Now, are there better players in the NBA than DiVincenzo? They almost traded him for Bogdanovich. And that would have been a mistake because they already made a mistake in letting Brogdon, another guy they got, walk. Imagine if they had Brogdon now, right? Imagine if they had Malcolm Brogdon right now. So you develop your own guys. That builds loyalty to your team. That builds your culture, right? And that builds a trust with the players in the league. They know that you're not just trying to discard them like they're garbage for the next thing that comes along. And so all that's important to the building of a new culture of a team, to the development of a situation where a player gets drafted by a San Antonio, or he gets drafted, or he gets picked up by a Miami Heat, and he knows what to expect from that organization. And that organization is going to demand certain things. That's what you want. We drafted Mitchell Robinson. We are developing Mitchell Robinson. We need to keep Mitchell Robinson. Okay? We don't need to bring in Andre Drummond to threaten his playing time. We don't need to do that. Just like we don't need to bring in any player that's going to threaten RJ Barrett's playing time. Or Julius Randle. And that's another thing. As good as Drummond is, he doesn't fit with Julius. He just doesn't. He's a low post guy, and he can do stuff off the dribble now. He does that, but he doesn't shoot any 3-point shots. And you want Julius to have the freedom to be low post or 3. Okay. He doesn't do that for you. All right. So yeah, Drummond, no. But I am with the Lonzo Ball because of the aforementioned situation where we really don't have strong point guard play. We got to do it by committee right now. All right. We got to do it by committee. So if we could get a Lonzo Ball and he is developing, and he's already a Thibodeau type of player, the way he plays defense, passes the basketball, and now he's improved his shooting, he would be a tremendous pickup for us. Now, how much we would pay for him, I don't know. I do believe very strongly that his father and his camp would like to be in New York. I do believe that. I do believe they would. And what's going to be important in that is what kind of push the Knicks make in the playoff run. Because if they make a strong push, let's say they finish the 6th seed and whatever, if they lose the first round or it's a tough out in the first round or even make the second round and it's known that they're just a point guard away from making that next move, I think Lonzo will be very interested. Now, he's a restricted free agent. He's actually playing on his qualifying offer. What does that mean? That means his team can match whatever is offered to him. New Orleans has the ability to match whatever is offered to him. Now, in that scenario, let's go back and think about Tim Hardaway Jr. You say, what Tim Hardaway Jr.? Yes, Tim Hardaway Jr. Because Tim Hardaway Jr. was in a similar situation with Atlanta. Now, he's Tim Hardaway and Lonzo Ball, 2 different players, but I'm talking about their situations. And what did we do? We overpaid a little bit for Tim Hardaway Jr. Just a little bit. I think, we got him we got Tim Hardaway Jr. 4 years, $72 million. We probably could have got him 4 years, $62 million. I think $63 million. We could have got him in that range. I don't think Atlanta was going to offer him more than like 53, 54. So we could have got him a little cheaper. So we overpaid a little bit. But the point is that we almost made it like a poison pill situation. We had a no trade clause. We added a few things that, not it wasn't a no trade clause, but it was a kicker. It was a kicker, a bonus he would get if he was to be traded. Okay, there was a trade kicker. That made it more difficult for Atlanta to sign him. So if we are really high on Lonzo Ball, we can offer him. I really still don't feel comfortable offering him more than $18 million a year. I would offer him the 4-year, $72 million deal with the trade kicker. You know, I'm not sure what New Orleans would do. New Orleans has 16 million in cap space. With the cap hold that Lonzo represents, they're over the cap and they have no cap space. Some people have mentioned, and rightly so, that he probably could play with Kyra Lewis. Probably could. And so I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen. But we could make a strong push. We have the money. This is where our financial management comes in. We have the money to make a strong push at Lonzo Ball if we really want him. Put it this way. I'd rather have Lonzo Ball than Fred VanVleet. I'd rather have, and I'm not saying Lonzo Ball's a max player. Well, neither is Fred VanVleet. But I'd rather have Lonzo Ball than Fred VanVleet. Lonzo's 23. Okay? Lonzo's 23. He's got 4 more years before he even reaches his prime. So we can lock him up a little bit now. I like that idea. Okay. I'm still, I'm holding out hope that the Cade Cunningham's, Jalen Suggs somehow happens. Although I understand, I don't need y'all telling me. I know it's a long shot, but when you got generational players, looking back, like think about it. What would you do knowing what you know about Luka Doncic? What would you do today if he was going to be drafted this year? If you're looking at an 18-year-old Luka Doncic right now, what would you try to do to get him? Because that's how I feel about Cade Cunningham and Jalen Suggs. They are that type of transformational players at the point guard position. And so, I don't know what we would need to. I don't want to, there's untouchable players. Mitchell, I mentioned. RJ's off limits. Randle's off limits. As far as young players, and Quickly's off limits. So those 4 are off limits. But anybody else in any draft considerations, I would be willing to do to get one of those 2 guys. That's how much I think of them. Now, if we don't get them, I say, listen, because I think the draft is before free agency. That's the way it normally is. But, these times are crazy. But if it's like that, I try everything I can to get one of those 2 kids. If I can't, then I focus all my attention on trying to land Lonzo. Because he's probably the best point guard for us that's going to be available. Okay. I think Chris Paul will have another year left on his deal. And even though Chris Paul is, Hall of Fame Chris Paul, one of the all-time great point guards, he's not 23. Okay, he's not 23. He would definitely, Chris Paul, even at his advanced age, look what he's doing with Phoenix. They're like 3rd in the West. He will help any team, move up a couple of spots. There's no question. But if we're talking about a long-term sustainable winner, we're talking about developing, Lonzo fits. Lonzo just fits. Age-wise, skill-wise, coaching staff we have with him wise, he just fits. Imagine him running point with Mitchell Robinson doing the lobbing, and now you got Julius Randle and RJ. Yeah. So I say we make a push for Lonzo. We may have to overpay for him, and the Knicks don't like to do that. And I like the fact that they don't like to do that. They may have to go into the, 4 years, 80-something million for this kid. They might. They might. But anyway, like 4 years, 88. I wouldn't like that at all, but I would understand if they did it. 4 years, 88 is a push. And I think that would blow New Orleans out the water. New Orleans don't want to pay Lonzo that kind of money. Especially they got Zion and Ingram. And they just maxed out Ingram. They're going to, there's no question they're going to max out Zion Williamson. There's no question they're going to do that. And now they got Kyra Lewis Jr. And we don't know what he's going to be, but I have a feeling he's going to be pretty good when he gets a couple of years under his belt. So they got to pay him eventually. So we're in a good position right now. So now we're playing Orlando on Thursday in the Garden. We can't take it for granted. We cannot take it for granted. We have to beat Orlando. There's no question about it. We just have to go out here and win this game. Now, I think the Knicks are going to be hungry for a win because of just simply because of the 2 losses we just suffered. They're going to be hungry for a win. We're going to get some rest today, and we're going to be home tomorrow. just coming from Philly. So I think we'll be in good shape. I think we'll be in good shape. Um, it says Evan Fournier, their status is Gordon is day to day with an ankle sprain. Fournier was out with a groin pull, so he's questionable. Cole Anthony is out. Ennis is out. Of course, Jonathan Isaac is out. Markel Fultz is out. So, you know, we have a good opportunity to pounce. The Knicks have been doing very well, as you know, beating teams they're supposed to beat. Last time we played him, though, we made Mark Carter Williams look like he was a good player, and he's an NBA player. You got to be good to play in the NBA, but he ain't nothing special on NBA level. You know, we was making him look like he could play, but I don't. We need to cut that. We need to cut that short, man. So, and of course, Terrence Ross is always a Nick killer. Terrence Ross always a Nick killer, and of course, Vucevic is always a Nick killer. So I hope. I don't think Mitchell will be back for this game. I doubt it if he'll be back for this game. But we got to really come to play Thursday night and get this win and start this thing off right. All right. It's now Wednesday night. We're gonna be on Nick of Time TV tonight about 8:45. I think my man said, going over last night's game. I like being with my man Jay Ellis and Ryan G in the building. Y'all have a safe and healthy evening. And we'll see you after we'll either see you tonight or we'll see you after the Orlando game. Shalom.